Welcome, everyone, to the hot seat. And I am so excited to be here today with Karina Nielsen of Ciellos. And for those people who haven't listened to an episode of the hot seat before, this is a new podcast being launched by Marketing Copilot to really help Microsoft partners navigate the future. And I know there's a lot that Karina and I are going to talk about, but I'm going to kick off the episode by asking Karina about some exciting news that has recently happened at Ciellos with respect to Ciellos and Novature. And Karina, I'm just going to jump right in and ask you, what the heck is going on at Ciellos, and what's your big exciting news that you have about Novature?
Thank you, Marie, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's true, we just had the news come out that Ciellos has joined the Novature group. This was really exciting for us because we were looking at changing our investors and bringing in a higher level of investors. So Novature Group was a perfect match because from the value standpoint, we are very aligned. And then the group of companies that are within Novature has a lot of the same focus as Ciellos. So while Ciellos is going to continue as an independent company, we're not going to change our brand, and I'll also continue serving as the CEO of Ciellos. It's going to give us a tremendous opportunity to accelerate our growth in the future. It's going to give us an opportunity to invest more in something like AI and many of the other new things that we are seeing. So this really is an exciting news for us, and definitely a big change from a back-end perspective, not so much when we look at it from an employee and customer perspective, but really setting us up for the future.
Okay, but I'm gonna just throw in one more thing that I'm particularly excited about. I understand you're also joining the board of Novature, and being a woman in tech and knowing that our numbers are low on boards and in leadership positions, I am thrilled and delighted that you're joining the board, and I'm so happy for you. And you are such a trailblazer, Karina, and couldn't be more thrilled and delighted to see you join the board of Novature.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that too, Maria. And I am also excited about that because in the group, there is a focus on also making more acquisitions in the dynamic space. And I look forward to being part of that as well. And what's really exciting about the groups, the companies in the group, is that we're all focusing on supporting partners. And as you know, that is also Ciellos' focus. So we help the partners, we help the ISVs, and that's what the other companies in the group do too, just from different angles. So that really is exciting. And we want to make sure that as the group grows, that we keep that focus.
Okay, so the tradition of the hot seat that we have yet to bring to the world is putting you in the hot seat and asking the tough questions. And I know that Ciellos does a great job augmenting the services of partners with integrations, that you are very, very helpful with ISVs as they're bringing their products to market. But I want to know, what's it going to take in going forward in the future for Microsoft partners to win? And what are you seeing in the channel with Microsoft partners? Let's be honest. Let's get you in the hot seat to answer that question.
Absolutely, Marie. So I think obviously the hot topic right now is AI and AI agents. And when we look at the partner channel, I think that half of them are really trying it out. And it is honestly a little bit of trial and error right now because AI is still new. We're still all figuring out how do we best use it. And those of us that's been part of this from the very beginning, we obviously know that there are things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do at this point of time. But honestly, 50% of the partners are still testing some of it out. Some of them are bringing some cool solutions to the market right now. But there's also another half that's still looking at it and saying, we know we have to do something, but we're not entirely sure what we should be doing. And that's obviously one of the things that Ciellos is looking at. How do we help these partners, and how do we make sure that they don't all have to make the same trial and error and get to the results. And really interesting, I think, when we look at AI, the hard part for many partners is also finding out what should we use this for? Where is this useful? When I think about it and think about where are we going to see AI in the future, I'm thinking actually back a little bit and saying, remember back, and it's not that far back, when we were able to get our business solutions online, and we were able to actually get data online into the business solutions because before that it would be something that we would run some things overnight, and that meant that we would have some fresh data that we could do things with in the morning. But then we were able to do it online, and we were able to get data right away. We also had to do some trial and error back then, because just because you could get data right away, we also had to find out that that was not always the best solution, because sometimes that would drive down the performance dramatically. So
Right.
I think when we think about AI, what's going to happen is that it's going to become a natural part of business solutions in different areas. And when we look at the partners, they're going to have to figure out where is it that it really makes sense to put these AI functions in, and then it's going to become a very natural portion of any solutions going forward. But it's going to take a little time before we get there. And then the other part that I think some of the partners that have started using it are really facing right now is that the testing side of using AI is a completely different monster than what we have known from testing before, because you actually have to not just think about a happy scenario and also another scenario that the users could do, but you actually also have to think about what happens to the data model. And when you hydrate your data model with more data, how does that change how the AI functions are working and the answers that you're getting? So that means that you have to constantly have a plan for how you're going to test this and how you're going to make sure that you're still getting the right answers that you need. And that's a challenge, and something that's requiring very different skills. And those are the things that we look at from a Ciellos perspective, is that we need to help the partners make sure that they understand what the challenge is that they have in front of them. We need to tell them what are some of the areas where AI works really well, but also what are some of the pitfalls that you can get into, just like back when we were doing online data and having way too much data come in. Well, the same thing with AI is that you can get yourself into, if you're using an agent, you're building an agent that is having interactions with the customer. Well, if that ends up being an obscene number of iterations, it's going to become really expensive. So we got to make sure that that's not how it's done.
Yeah. So, anybody in technology, is very familiar with Jeffrey Moore and the idea of crossing the chasm. And there's the early adopters, the mid adopters, and the laggards, the late adopters. What I've seen in the channel, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I've been out at AI conferences recently, at the AI Summit, listening to speakers on a variety of topics, what Microsoft thinks the future is. And what I'm pleasantly surprised about this time around, and I don't know if you would agree with this, because I know you and I have both been in the tech sector for a long time, and we've seen trends come and go, and the next great thing that's happening. But what I'm really surprised is, even if people aren't out there using it, they really have it on their roadmap. And it feels like when they choose adoption of tools, or how to use it, or where to use it, or what to build it, they can adopt it a lot faster than anything else we've seen to date. It took a while to transition to the cloud. It takes a while to build a software product as opposed to on-premise. And those things take a long time. Integrations take a long time, as do transitions from one product to another. But it feels like AI is speeding everything up. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree, but I think part of that is also because AI is the citizen developer movement. So it means that it doesn't require developers who have been doing development for 20 years to actually be able to do this. And I would also, my prediction is also that this is going to be mostly a play where this is going to be implemented for end customers. It's going to be less about building ISV solutions, although, like I said, it's going to be a natural part of any solution going forward. I think that where it's really going to make a difference is out for the end customers, where you can see that, this is particular for this customer. And if we implement AI here, it's going to make things run much smoother or much faster, and it's not going to take as much to actually create those little additions to the implementations. But what is going to be important is that the testing. That's really where the big portion of the effort is going to be, I think.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Now, Ciellos has a huge footprint and makes a huge impact on the ISV side of the world. I've been out at events, and again, I'm going to put you in the hot seat on this one, but I've been out at events and people have questioned, well, are we going to continue to need ISV solutions if we can use AI and we can create an AI, an AI agent, or we can use Copilot Studio to build something? What would your advice to ISVs be right now about that?
I think we're still going to need the ISVs. And the reason for that is that even if we look at the Power Platform that's been around for a long time now, it has a bit of the same flavor where you can build small things fast. But if you build everything in small things fast, it's going to be a nightmare to maintain it. And I think that's exactly where the ISVs come in. I think we're going to need some of these base solutions that are going to take care of the industry flavor, or it's going to take care of some specific horizontal things that we need. But I do believe that the small little add-ons, some of those may become replaced by being able to do the easy stuff directly in the customer implementation. But for the bigger things, I think that there's absolutely still going to be need for the ISVs, because it's just not efficient to try and build all of that with small little building blocks, because it's really going to be a nightmare to maintain it.
That is an excellent point, and I'm so glad you raised it, because I think that's not part of the conversation that's going on right now. We see this shiny, bright object, and we're not having that kind of conversation, and I think that's an excellent point. I'm wondering too about, is it just business as usual with respect to integrating tech these days? Are we going to see different things happening? I mean, at Marketing Copilot, we like to talk about hybrid intelligence. AI is great, but you still need a human being making decisions. And I think the point you just made is a human being needs to make decisions to maintain things, to test things. So is it business as usual, or do you think things are changing out there? What's your thought?
So I think one of the changes we're going to see is that over time, there's going to be less people sitting and writing code. There's going to be a lot more people that have to think through how solutions are going to be made and how they're going to be orchestrated and how all these little things can play together. And that's where we're going to need the human brain. So there's definitely going to be a lot more use for functional people, for integration specialists that understand what's the right way to integrate all of these different things. And so it's not business as usual. It will change over time, but it doesn't mean that the human factor is going away. I very much agree with you on that. But it means that the human factor needs to be doing more thinking and less coding.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue into the other question I wanted to ask you. So, what type of talent do you think an innovative partner or ISV is going to need to bring on board in order to make some of this happen? And then I have another question. I want you to look into your crystal ball on my other question. But right now, what type of talent do you think people are going to need?
So I think that what we'll see is that it's the functional consultant type resources that we're going to see more of. And it's the QA resources that we're going to need much more of. And it's not going to be QA in the traditional sense. It's going to be QAs that can really have the imagination to think of how would I interact with AI, and knowing how do we make sure that we can test all of that and test what happens when we hydrate data models and all of that. So I think that there's going to be a need for more creativity than what we've seen before. And I also think that there is going to be creativity alongside with structure, because there is going to need to be someone that can structure how is this going to work efficiently.
Okay. All right. I totally agree with you on that. But now I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out. And, you know, the question we strive to answer on the hot seat that we think is the most important question we can be answering for Microsoft partners is, you look into your crystal ball, it's 18 months from now. What are the components of a Microsoft partner that are going to make it really successful? What will that Microsoft partner have to be really successful 18 months from now? Do you need to pull your crystal ball out there and just have a little look in it for me?
Well, I've definitely been doing that, because we obviously needed to plan also for how do we make sure that we have the right skill set so that we can help the partners be successful in 18 months. So for us, this has a lot to do with understanding your customers and then understanding how AI is efficiently used. So if I look at a successful partner, an implementation partner, I look at them finding out what is some of the typical things that their customers can use AI for, and make that part of the standard implementations. And then really being able to understand their customer's business to see where it might be special things for this customer, where it can make a huge difference. And I also believe that they need to think about the citizen developers. So part of it is also going to be the partners training their customers to be able to do some of this themselves, and also explaining to them what they should and shouldn't do. Because I think, like with any cool new technology, there are things you should do and there are things that you absolutely shouldn't do, because we're back to the nightmare of maintenance. So a lot of advisory that implementation partners need to add to their conversation with customers, because at the customer sites, they're also going to have young people that are very excited about taking on this new technology and finding out that they can do a lot of things. But we did see this also with Power Platform. And like I said, it's been successful with the citizen developer approach there, that you are doing things specifically for a customer. And the partner's role is going to be how to advise in what to do, what not to do, and how to test and maintain it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely bang on. And I think the partners have a really, really important role to play from a consulting perspective, particularly around data management, security, and those things that they can really be experts in. And I think, you know, I remember back in the day when I was working in financial services, and there would be these custom builds that people would put into, you know, the back office stack. And to your point, it's like, well, this person better work here for the next 20 years, or we're going to have problems maintaining something that got custom built. So I think the problems continue to be the same problems we've always had to solve from a business perspective. But I think the speed at which we can solve some of these problems now is completely different. I think the tools we can use, and I've been a little bit frustrated, because as we've been talking about AI over the last 24 months at Marketing Copilot, we always seem to be having these conversations about AI tools or AI licenses or AI products. And I think we have to stop talking about the tools and start talking about the business vision. What are we really trying to accomplish here? What's the right way to accomplish it? What's the right way to maintain it? What's the right way to test it? And I think you've hit on all of those points quite eloquently. So I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough for joining us today on the hot seat. And I have to say to our listeners, a huge shout out to Karina on many fronts. But first of all, our first guest on the hot seat, a guest who showed up with a news item. So congratulations on the work that you're doing with Novature. Congratulations on your position on the board. And as always, Karina, I am so impressed by the expertise you bring to the industry because you've been doing this for a long time. And because I think you started when you were about 10 years old doing this, right?
Of course.
You've been, excuse me, you've been doing it for a while. You have a wealth of knowledge, and it is always such a delight to listen to you and learn from you. And for all of our listeners today, I highly recommend you follow Karina on LinkedIn. You check out Ciellos and see some of the really innovative things they're doing with ISVs and partners. You've been listening to the first ever episode of The Hot Seat. I'm your host, Marie Wiese, and this is the No Nonsense podcast for Microsoft partners, featuring candid conversations about the challenges and opportunities we're seeing today in the channel. And we couldn't have learned from a better first guest than Karina Nielsen of Ciellos. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.